Hey everyone, welcome back to the 5th and final day of the UI Design short course. Today we'll be using color and imagery to bring our app designs to life. We'll get to know the basics of color theory, and then we're gonna cover how you can use colors and images in Adobe XD. By the end of this tutorial, you're gonna have an app screen to show off and share with friends and family. Color theory is the framework surrounding the use of color in art and design. If we look at a basic color wheel, there are 3 categories of color. Primary colors, red, blue, and yellow. Secondary colors, orange, purple, and green. And tertiary colors, magenta, vermilion, violet, teal, amber, and chartreuse. If you remember learning these in grade school, well, you've already got the fundamentals for color theory. The color wheel charts these colors and their respective hues, tints, tones, and shades. By being able to visualize how a color relates to another color in the color wheel, designers can create color palettes that give an interface a balanced and harmonized aesthetic. Let's look more closely at these color variants. Hue refers to the pure pigment of a color without tint or shade. Any of the 6 primary or secondary colors is a hue. Shade refers to how much black is added to the color. So naturally, shade darkens the color. Tint is the result of a color that has both black and white added to it. Color temperature refers to the warmth or coolness of a color. Warm colors contain shades of yellow and red. Cool colors have a blue, green, or purple tint. And neutral colors include brown, gray, black, and white. All right, so now let's talk about color systems. There's the additive color system, RGB, which stands for red, green, and blue. And this is the color model used for screens, such as a television or a mobile device. RGB is an additive color model in which red, green, and blue light are added together in various ways to reproduce an array of colors. Additive colors start off black, and as colors are added, turns lighter and lighter till it becomes white. Then there's the subtractive color system, CMYK, which stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And this is typically used for printing. So you may have noticed these colors in your printer. CMYK obtains colors by the subtraction of light. The background starts off white, like a piece of paper in your printer. And then the more color that is added, it turns darker and darker and darker until it's ultimately black. The hex color system is concerned with digital colors. A hex code is a 6-digit code with letters and numbers and is basically a short code for RGB. In web design, every digital color has a hex code. Now let's talk about how you can choose colors for your app. And it's not as simple as just picking out your favorite color, gold or blue. Before you dive into applying a color, let's bear in mind a few considerations. The first is color psychology. Now let's look at some of the most common color associations. Orange is energetic and warm. Red is associated with energy, war, passion, love, and lust. Yellow invokes positivity, warmth, playfulness, and sunshine. Pink evokes feelings of innocence and delicateness, also romance. Blue is perceived as authoritative, trustworthy, and dependable, and is one of the most commonly used brand colors. Green symbolizes growth, healing, wellness, health, and money. Black represents power, elegance, and authority. These color associations are helpful in deciding how you want your users to feel. For example, if you're designing the Ethical Eater app, you might want to use yellow or green to represent vegetables, healthy eating. For the Activist app, you might want to use blue or black that really go along with those themes of activism and sharing ideas. Now the next thing is contrast. Now if your screen has just all these varying shades of the same color, it's probably not going to help the user understand what to pay special attention to or even how to navigate the app. Aim for a mild level of contrast and apply more high contrasting colors for things that need to stand out, such as a call to action button. Also, you might want to stick to some UI conventions. Now, when you're playing around with color, it's easy to be carried away with aesthetics over practicality. But if you start to play around too much with crazy colors or have a little too much edginess involved, it's probably going to give a headache to the users. Some common UI design conventions include using darker colors for text just to improve the legibility. Also using lighter colors for the background, and also having some of the more stronger colors as the accent colors. You might also want to stick to some of the classic call to action colors like red or orange. Sticking to these conventions will reduce the cognitive load for your users and allow them to navigate your app much more intuitively. Use the 60-30-10 rule. This is a popular interior design trick that helps to just keep your interfaces much more balanced. So 60% of your interface should be one color, and it's typically pretty neutral. Then 30% is a secondary complementary color, and then 10% is the more stronger call to action accent color. Sticking to this formula will help the eye comfortably move from one focal point to another. So let's look at Airbnb. The primary color, the 60%, is white. And then that secondary color is a lighter gray color. And then the 10% is that stronger coral color that really pops against those other colors. Now, you know that saying a picture is worth 1,000 words? Well, sometimes multiple ideas can be conveyed in one image. Also, people pay much more attention to images than words, especially for interface design. An image can capture the user's attention much quicker and more effectively sometimes than words. So when we choose an image, we really need to consider how we want that user to feel. Now, an image can help to showcase a product or showcase how a user uses a product, or it can convey an emotion or represent a brand's personality. You can find free images to use for your interface through sites like Adobe Stock, Pexels, Pixabay, and Unsplash. All right, so now for the practical part. Let's move into Adobe XD. All right, so let's start with colors. I am going to start to add colors to my buttons. So I'm gonna begin with my sign up button here. And in here, if I need to get to a particular layer in this group, you can go into your layers panel, which is over here, this second button on the bottom left-hand side. And I can open up this folder and just get into that particular layer, that rectangle layer. From there, what I'm gonna do is go over to the right-hand side, my property inspector, and I'm going to select fill. And from here, I can go ahead and put in some green color like this, or I can apply a hex code. So I am going to just go right into here where it says hex and put in my hex code, which is gonna be 25815B. And then I'm going to actually remove the gray border here. So I'm gonna remove that. Now what I wanna do is make sure there's more contrast, right? So sign up is gray on this green background. It's hard to read. So I'm gonna select the text and I'm gonna go again over into the right-hand side into my property inspector. And where it says fill, I'm gonna select that and go all the way, drag this little indicator all the way to white. Now the hex code for white is just FFF, FFF. All right, so there is my first button all completed. Now I'm gonna go into my secondary button I can go into the layers panel and just select the background rectangle. Now the other thing you can do is just double click to get into that particular layer as well. So now I have the rectangle selected, and again, the right hand side in my property inspector, I can change out the color. So now what I want to do, since it's a secondary button, I don't want it to compete with the primary call to action. So I am going to leave the fill as white, and I'm going to change the border to that green color. So again, I'm going to just put in the hex code 258158 there. And I want it to stand out just a little bit more. So right underneath where it says border, there's size 1. I'm going to try out size 2. So it just gives a little more weight to that border. Then from there, I don't like the way this gray color looks with the button. I want to keep it all within the same sort of color palette. So I'm going to select this text. Now again, to get into a particular layer, I can just double click to get into just that text layer. Now from here, I can go into the right-hand side into my property inspector. I can select the fill and I can get into that green color. Now, here's a little fun trick. If you go all the way over to the right where this little dropper icon is, if I select that, this allows me to select any color on my screen. So I'm gonna click onto that green and it's automatically applying it. So now I don't have to actually put in that hex code. If I want to save a color, you can also go over here in the bottom left-hand corner where there's a plus button and I can add that. And so now it's a saved color. So I don't have to keep going back and putting in that hex code. All right, so next up is images. Now, the easiest way to work with images is to apply a container already on the screen with a shape, like where you want that image contained. So I'm going to go into the toolbar, and the second option here is rectangle. I'm gonna select that, and I'm gonna make my shape here, basically where I want the image to live. So I'm just gonna literally take the image and drag it into that shape. When I do that, you're gonna see that it's enabled. You see this like blue highlight onto the rectangle. It's like, do you wanna drop me here? And I'm gonna say, yes, I do. And there is my image. All right, so what else I want to do, because I wanna put that text, so this text on top, I want to have more of that contrast between the text and the image. So I'm going to put in another layer, another rectangle on top that's just gonna darken that image a bit more and make it easier to read the text. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to make another rectangle. So over here, go into rectangle in my toolbar, or R for shortcut. Then I'm gonna make my little rectangle on top, right on top of it. And then from there, I am going to fill in a color. So over here where it says fill my property inspector, I'm gonna choose the green, but what I wanna do is first go over here into this color picker here and change the opacity so I can start to see the image in the background. So now when I drag it down, if I go all the way down, it's completely has no color on it now. If I go all the way full, there's color. So I'm just gonna go like maybe to here where you can start to see a peak of that color. And the other thing I wanna do is just darken it a little bit. So I'm taking this where it was at that bright color and I'm just dragging it down so it's a darker shade here. And that again is just gonna make it much more readable and pleasing to the eye. So I'm taking it to a really dark green. Now from here, there's that border, that gray border. I would just wanna remove that border. And actually on the image behind, there's a border as well. So I'm just going to remove that gray border as well and place that back in. So my text behind is hidden. Now how you can bring that text forward is go into your layers panel, and I can from there grab my text layer here and drag it all the way to the top. Again, with the title, drag it all the way to the top here. Now I can put, place those where I want them. Now, again, what do you see here? The gray on top of that dark image, it's hard to see. So I wanna have more contrast, right? So I'm going to change both this title and the body copy to white. So it's just much easier to see. So I'm just gonna drag this all the way to white. Now you can see that it's just much easier to read. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna place in my icon. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my logo, my little leaf logo, and I'm going to select or get into this artboard just by clicking into any layer here. And then I'm gonna paste. From here, I'm gonna just place it where I want it, and I'm gonna change out the color. So over here, my property inspector, I'm gonna get rid of the border, and then I'm gonna choose the white fill here. So there it is. And now I'm gonna also just take my buttons and drag it down a bit. All right, there we go. The app is finalized. The screen is looking good. Now you guys should have some other text filled in for yours, but it should look fairly similar to this. So once you've added all your finalized copy and you feel really good about it, now it's ready to share. How you can share your designs is you can export them as an image. So let's do that. What I'm gonna do is select the app screen here. Just select that artboard title, so the whole thing is selected. And then I'm gonna go over here into File, and from there I'm going to go into Export and Selected. Now I can save it as, put in whatever title I want or leave it as is. And then I can also change the formatting if I want. You should leave it as a PNG and then export it. All right, so now that you have a exported PNG of your screen, feel free to share it out. Maybe tag CareerFoundry and show your friends and family this first start to your UI career perhaps. And what I recommend is to really personalize it, make it more your own, have fun with the colors and the imagery and the copy. Congratulations, you completed the UI design short course. You should give yourself a pat on the back. You also completed your first app screen, which is super exciting. Over the last 5 days, you've successfully created your first interface design in Adobe XD. You went from wireframes all the way to this high fidelity polished screen. You've also learned the fundamental principles of UI design, including typography, hierarchy, and color theory. Keep reading along in the tutorial page for more tips and information. Thank you again so much for watching, and congratulations on completing this course.